This is something I've seen a lot of people talking about lately, both fitness content creators and the viewers as well, which is that YouTube needs to quote unquote fix their algorithm in order to reward content that is factually accurate rather than promoting all these BS clickbait overhyped videos that are full of misinformation. Now that sounds nice in theory, however, what a lot of people don't realize or what they don't really think about is that when it all comes down to it, whether it's here on YouTube or over on Instagram or TikTok, the central focus of these platforms has nothing to do with the information itself. Their algorithms are not broken, and they have no interest in fixing it in the way that so many people think it needs to be fixed. At the end of the day, these are businesses, and the primary goal of a business is to generate a profit, and the way they generate profit is through advertisers, and the way they maximize those earnings is by keeping you on the platform for as long as possible so that they can then show you as many ads as possible. And how do they keep you on the platform for as long as possible? It's by promoting those pieces of content that most effectively capture attention. It's not, oh wow, look at this knowledgeable science-based creator giving a biomechanically accurate description of how to optimize hypertrophy in the lower pectorals. This is very high quality information, and therefore we need to give this creator more exposure. No, that's completely irrelevant if the content isn't producing a high level of engagement across a wide audience that keeps people using the app. And this might just sound theoretical at first, but stick with me because in a minute I'll explain how to use this to your advantage in a practical sense as far as your actual muscle building and fat loss goals are concerned. But that's why someone who starts their video off shirtless and greased up with cooking spray and a pump from a perfectly lit angle, and then making bold promises about some collection of cool looking exercises with catchy background music added in, that's why that person on average is gonna get way more views and follows and comments than someone standing in front of a whiteboard wearing a t-shirt and breaking down biceps anatomy in a monotone voice for 10 minutes. Even if that first video is complete and utter horseshit as far as the information goes, and the second is perfectly accurate, it really doesn't matter, especially considering that the majority of people consuming this content, they don't know the difference between what's correct and what's incorrect anyway. Now there is gonna be a smaller segment of the population who will prefer that more straightforward, boring video, and who aren't as susceptible to all the bells and whistles, and who are thinking more critically and can see through the hype and are really trying to learn things in more depth. But the simple fact is that the general masses are just gonna gravitate toward whatever is flashier and more attention grabbing on the surface. And not only that, and this is where it gets really crazy, which is that even if you know that a certain piece of content is complete garbage information-wise, you're still likely gonna watch and engage with it for that exact reason. A negative reaction is still a reaction. It's still getting your attention and keeping you on the platform. Maybe you comment, maybe you share it with someone else, and so it still signals to YouTube or Instagram or TikTok that, for better or worse, this is an engaging piece of content, period. And that's the key thing to understand here, which is that that's ultimately what the algorithm is. You know, people like to fault these platforms for the way the algorithm is set up, when in reality, the people are the algorithm. You are the algorithm. The algorithm is basically a representation of the collective brain and what that collective brain is most drawn towards, regardless of whether the information contained within that content is factually accurate or not. The goal isn't to show people the content that they need, it's to show people the content that they want or that they think they want. And the big kicker that ties all this together is that very often, the things that are the most factually correct in terms of training, nutrition, supplementation, etc., those are precisely the types of things that people don't want to hear. For example, people don't want to hear that muscle growth is a slow process that takes months and years to significantly accumulate, and that it mostly comes down to repetitively executing fairly basic tasks in the gym and the kitchen over and over and over. No, they want to hear the one weird secret that will double their gains in a matter of weeks, or 5 little known arm exercises you're missing out on, or take this groundbreaking new supplement for steroid-like gains without the side effects, or whatever else. They don't want to hear that in order to lose fat and achieve a lean physique, it mainly comes down to maintaining a calorie deficit while consuming sufficient protein combined with consistent weight training and cardio. They want to hear that they can hack the process using some special fasting protocol to effortlessly get down to 7% body fat, or that if they just cut out these 5 foods or this one macronutrient, they're going to speed up fat loss by 50%, or that this special type of cardio can supercharge their metabolism, or that eating like our ancestors is the key to burning stubborn belly fat.
I'm gonna take a huge bite out of these testicles.
And that's exactly why you see so much of that type of content all over the place, because on average, that's where the collective attention flows. And that's also why some of the most viral, most viewed content you'll see on these platforms is complete and total nonsense, and why some of the most followed accounts out there are the ones routinely putting out the very worst advice. Now, I know this all sounds pretty bleak, but the good news is that by being aware of this, by understanding that surface metrics like someone's follower counts or likes or comments, that those aren't necessarily indicative of the accuracy of the information that they're giving, nor is the production quality of their videos or other surface appearances like their physique or their charismatic speaking ability. If you're just consciously aware of these things, then you're much less likely to be misled because you can start evaluating the information you find based on the information itself, which is going to greatly increase your chances of success toward your goals, whether it's in fitness or in any other area of life for that matter. And you're also going to get ahead of the competition, so to speak, since that's not how the general masses go about things. The average person out there is much more susceptible to simply following the herd and basing the quality of online content purely on social proof and other superficial factors. They just see that someone has a big following or that a certain piece of content has a lot of likes and views, or that person looks good and speaks confidently, and they just assume that that means it must be valuable information, and they won't even really question it. Those things are enough on their own to just blindly believe whatever they're being told. And this is one of the main reasons why so many people out there fail to reach their goals in the gym or even just in life in general. You know, there's a lot of great, high quality information out there if you know how to look for it and how to assess it, but very often it just gets drowned out by all the BS that just happens to be packaged up in a more appealing, attention-grabbing way. But always remember that a turd covered in chocolate and sprinkles is ultimately still a turd, and it's crucial that you always remain skeptical and not just take things at face value. Is the person you're watching actually giving information based on solid logic and reasoning that objectively makes sense? And do they have a track record of that in general? Can you verify what they're saying through some of your own independent research from other sources? Are they basing their advice, at least in part, on legit scientific research and not just on anecdote and logical fallacies? Are they willing to revise and update their stances based on new information? Now, obviously, this is a whole other complex topic on its own as far as assessing information goes. And if you're still a beginner to intermediate, then of course you're not going to be able to just know right off the bat what's correct versus what isn't. No one's perfect in that regard and everybody's constantly learning, but the point here is to just be aware of the fact that these content platforms are not necessarily your ally as far as quality of information goes, and at the end of the day, it's up to you to figure things out for yourself. Just because something shows up at the top of your feed, just because it has tons of engagement, just because it has a comment section full of people giving mostly positive feedback, that does not necessarily mean you should follow the advice given. Hope you found this helpful. If you do want to grab a free no BS fitness plan to get yourself onto the right track, make sure to visit seannall.com/custom. The link for that is in the description box. Here are 2 more videos I'd recommend watching now. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.